Hello, I'm Dr. Amelia Kelley. I'm a trauma informed therapist with a passion for self empowerment and especially helping neurodiverse folks and sensitive souls find their place in this not always sensitive world. I am also an author and a professor of counseling psychology, and I absolutely love spreading knowledge about mental health because I really believe it's the foundation for self empowerment. And I'm so excited to be here to chat with all of you today.
Hi, I'm Jeanne. I am an anxious overachiever with panic disorder and the CEO and founder of Biggie Life and Beauty. We specialize in irritant-free skincare for sensitives like me, and I have a personal life blog about my journey with anxiety disorder. I'm so happy to be here. How has this week treated you?
It's been busy. I'm excited we're talking about sensitivity today and what that looks like for different people because I think that always plays a role in it.
Oh yeah, this week has been a busy one for me too. We have a big school holiday coming up on Friday, which is always a challenge when all the kids are home. But in
Mm.
February, they have this huge festival in Portugal they call Carnival, and like
Mm.
everything closes for it. Like, have you ever seen those festivals? I think it's in Brazil with all these feathers and colors, and everybody's in the street.
Yeah.
It's like it's that. But
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
it's a huge thing, and we're actually in the parade this year.
You
We're
are. What are you
yes,
doing?
we're Barbie. Our whole like float is Barbie, and my
Oh, that's so
husband
funny.
is one of the Kens.
Oh my gosh. Is your daughter in it?
Yes, she's on the actual float. So after our recording, I'm actually going to the seamstress who's like making everybody's clothes because we all have to look the same. And I think we're like 30 people in like the one float, and there are 12 or 13 floats that
Wow.
go throughout the street. So yeah, it's a huge thing, and we're just trying to not mess it up.
That's really cool. Who is the group that you're in the float with?
It's just actually people that live around here that like doing
Mhm.
it.
Oh, that's
So,
cool.
and then they usually have like one main float that they have some sort of celebrity in, like a
Obviously you. I'm just kidding.
no, like a famous singer or like a TV host or
Oh, that's
something like
neat.
that. Yeah, it's a big thing. And then the kids also at school have their own little parade that they walk through the streets and dress up as princesses or clowns or whatever they want to dress up as.
That's
So
fun.
that's my big week. And I'm
Why is
also
it in
happy.
February? Out of curiosity.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know. I should probably find out why. But I'm also happy we're talking about sensitivity because one of the things of really sensitive people is getting easily overwhelmed in crowds,
Mhm.
a lot of noise, a lot of stimuli. So, yeah, let's get into it. We wanted to do our checklists today, but maybe you can first take us through it and just explain what is a sensitive person, because for me, I only found out about how highly sensitive people in 2017 when I read Elaine Aron's book.
Mhm.
But this was post my panic disorder diagnosis. So I didn't even know about this before. And it completely changed my life because it made me feel like I was no longer an other, but that I
Right.
understood myself and where I fit in the world, and like I'm not wrong, you
Mhm.
know? So, what is sensitivity? What is a highly sensitive person?
And so actually I want to say I think it might have been around the same time that I found out too about high
Oh, really?
sensitivity. And
Oh,
I found
awesome.
out about it. Do you know the Gaia channel? It used to be Gaiam, now it's Gaia. It's like a yoga brand.
Yes, yes, yes.
So they have a streaming channel, and on it, I stumbled upon the documentary that I think Dr. Aaron had produced called "Sensitive: The Untold Story."
Mhm.
And I'm like, "Oh, I like Alanis Morissette. What's this?" And so I clicked on it, and it was one of those probably similar just aha moments. For me, it was it. I always thought, "Gosh, I'm just like really high strung. Like, do I have anger issues or something?" And but I'm also really easygoing and forgiving, so it didn't always match. And after learning about high sensitivity, it helped fill in the gaps being like, "Oh, no, it's just being overstimulated."
Mm.
So, according to Dr. Aaron's research, which really has been going on for decades now, it is an overactive limbic system. It comes down to a different type of brain. HSPs make up about 25% of all animal species. So,
Oh,
not just
wow.
humans. Yes. I mean, they've
Okay.
researched this in bugs,
Oh,
in
wow.
domesticated animals, a lot of research in horses, just because they have so much access to different kind of psychological behaviors with them. And so the theory is that you need sensitive people or animals within a species to help the species at large survive.
Mhm.
So if you think about, if you
So
go,
we're
oh,
not wrong. We're
we're not,
needed.
no, we're an asset. We are an asset. When my clients find out, I mean, obviously I try to kind of get the vibe of how they're feeling about it, but I
Mm,
say, like, welcome to the club. Like, congratulations. I'm excited for you that
yeah.
you fall on this spectrum. And it really is a spectrum, because you could have someone who scores, 100%, really, really, really highly sensitive. And then you can have kind of moderate sensitivity. And then what we talked about in our first episode, and we should unpack at some point, the low sensitives.
Mhm.
And it doesn't mean that you're not emotional. I think people misunderstand sensitivity for being emotional.
Mhm.
It can lead to stronger emotions, but being highly sensitive and having that more active limbic system basically means that the world around you has so many more layers, and there's so many more things for you to process. And it can
Mhm.
lead to these incredible superpowers that we can have, which I like can't wait to teach our listeners about all this stuff, because I love everything HSP. But it can also, just like a computer that has too many programs running, it
Oh,
can
yeah.
burn us out, overwhelm us, flood us. And so there's
We really
definite
do need to
upsides.
reboot sometimes.
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Yeah, that's so interesting, and I can't wait for us to get further into this talk. And when you were saying some people score really high, some score in the middle, some score really low, um, we'll go through the checklist now.
Mhm.
But you also said that there are, and I didn't know this, you said there are two spectrums. I think it's the high sensation seeker and the highly sensitive person. And when we decided to do the podcast, we said, okay, let's take our quiz again and to see where we fall. And you are a high sensation seeker,
Yes.
and I am absolutely not.
Yes, yes. But we're both HSPs, so it shows how it
Yeah.
can show up differently for different people and different brains.
Yeah. So can you maybe, well, maybe we should start with just the HSP question list, and then we can make the distinction between that and a high sensation seeker.
For sure. And one thing I didn't mention, and it is important to mention, it is equal among genders. So there's no difference between how many percentages of women versus men are going to be HSPs. It's
Mm-hmm.
just, and this is definitely something I hope we unpack at some point. Our society doesn't really celebrate sensitivity in men the way that it should, which can lead to a
Mm-hmm.
lot of issues like substance use, anger issues, all
Yeah.
of this host of things that can happen when you repress your sensitivity. So just something to consider if you're listening and you happen to be a
Yeah.
man too.
Hold that thought. We're going to
Yes, hold
discuss
that
that.
thought. Yep. Hmm.
So when we are going through this little checklist, and I'm just wondering, you know, of course, and we will maybe need to say that just because you are a highly sensitive person doesn't mean you're necessarily wired like I am, that you necessarily have panic disorder, that you necessarily have an anxiety disorder. You can
Right.
be an HSP and not have any of these issues. So I think it's
Mhm.
pretty important to kind of keep those two separate. What do you think?
I absolutely agree. I think there are two things to consider when it comes to mental health with HSPs. HSPs are emotional sponges, and they do absorb their environment dramatically. So if you happen to live in an unsupportive environment, or you've been in an unsupportive relationship, you could be more likely to develop mental health issues
Mm-hmm.
than a non HSP, because you are absorbing. However, conversely, you can be less likely to develop
Mm-hmm.
mental health issues and really flourish if you're in a supportive environment. So that's a big thing. It's not that one causes the other, but it does kind of increase the I don't know,
likelihood
Yeah.
of it
Hmm.
maybe being so.
Right.
So I think definitely for me in my specific case, my outcome to the sensitivity checklist for me contributes a lot to how I am also wired in terms of my anxiety and panic disorder, because I am 100%. Like there wasn't one answer that I had a no to, but also similarly, there wasn't one answer that I had to think about. It was like a resounding, immediate, definite yes. This is
Hmm.
absolutely me. So these things that are listed is you're easily overwhelmed by strong
Hmm.
sensory input. So this would be lights, sounds, people talking around you, busy malls, concert
Hmm.
events. You seem to be aware of subtleties in any environment. And
Hmm.
this is a really hard one for me because I will feel physically ill, literally physically ill, if we were to go to a dinner party, for example, with friends, and I can pick up that they have been fighting or
Mm.
something isn't right in the conversation. Like I will immediately feel like people are stressed or angry or something isn't right, and I will feel uncomfortable.
Mhm.
And the age old thing will happen where we'll get in the car and I'll tell my husband, oh my gosh, that was so stressful. There was clearly something wrong. And he's like, what are you talking about? This was awesome night. Nothing was wrong. And that just leads into, yes, other people's moods affect me greatly.
Mhm.
That whole also walking on eggshells thing. You tend to be very sensitive to pain, find yourself needing to withdraw during busy days, either into bed, a darkened room, or any place where you can have privacy and relief. And that's actually kind of our going agreement in the house, is when I've
Mm.
had a particularly stressful day, I get 20 minutes to myself before anybody rushes at me, because I have a very supportive family. My husband understands the high sensitivity, and he understands I absolutely need that to be able to
Mm.
function as a normal human being. And my little girl says, oh, she's not mommy right now. Mommy hasn't had 20 minutes, so it's not the real mommy.
It's so funny.
Real mommy's coming.
Mhm.
Being particularly sensitive to the effects of caffeine. I call myself the Energizer bunny. That bunny that used to, I get like that when I have caffeine. Easily overwhelmed by things like bright lights, strong smells, coarse fabrics, sirens. Really that example of feeling that tiny little woolen area of your sock and it
Mhm.
frustrates you to a never ending degree. Um, Having a rich and complex inner life, I completely live within my mind. Growing up, I remember people always getting so angry with me and asking me, do you live on planet Earth? Are you here? Are you registering? Like, where are you? You're not focusing. I was always daydreaming, always so deeply ingrained in the inside. Um, Uncomfortable with loud noises. This, I think, comes from other aspects of my life, not just high sensitivity, but I have a really big fear of loud noises because of past trauma.
Mhm.
So I really don't do well with like a cup falling or a pot clanging or any kind of high pitched high noise. Deeply moved by arts and music. Yes, I can sit for hours and just cry to a beautiful song or be completely engrossed in being so pumped up and
Mhm.
jazzed. Um, Nervous system sometimes feels frazzled, like you just have to go off by yourself, being conscientious, startling easily, getting rattled when you do a lot in a short amount of time. And when people are uncomfortable in a physical environment, I tend to know what needs to be done to make it more comfortable, which is true. Yes, like lighting, seating, and etc., which can also be counterintuitive to you because you get so involved in trying to make these people comfortable because you yourself feel so uncomfortable because they're
Mhm.
uncomfortable. So you end up getting so stressed out.
Mhm.
being annoyed when people try to get you to do too many things at once, and trying hard to avoid making mistakes or forgetting things, making a point to avoid violent TV shows or movies, which is definitely true for me, becoming unpleasantly aroused when there's a lot going on, being hungry is not a good thing for your mood or your concentration, you don't like changes, you notice and enjoy delicate fine scents and tastes and sounds and works of art because I think you just see something in it and experience something through it. I think this is where your art background also comes in.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, finding it unpleasant to have a lot going on at once. It's all these like overwhelming situations, making it high priority to arrange your life to avoid upsetting or overwhelming situations, being bothered by this intense stimuli. Um, and when you were a child, you were probably told, you're so sensitive. You're always so sensitive. Why are you so shy? So, yeah, this was really my kind of journey through the sensitivity quiz. And all of those for me were, if this is a yes, I'm a yes. So I'm so interested to hear if this is then the same for you as a sensation seeker. Or is that just another level to this?
So, and it's interesting because as I was listening to you talk about each of the questions, and these are from Dr. Aaron's quiz
Mm-hmm.
that is all based on her empirical research. And I don't know if you had mentioned, but hsperson.com is where you can go and check these off for yourself. And the interesting thing I really try to encourage people to remember, you check it off even if it partly applies to you. So it's very
Okay.
different from other quizzes, whereas like with depression or anxiety, you say if it's more of the time, this
Mm-hmm.
is any of the time. So all of these resonate for me as well. There's some really interesting science and behind why all of these are factors that determine whether someone's an HSP. But if I go to and if you go to that website, you can actually also take a test for your child, which is,
I saw that and I
yeah,
did that. Yeah.
because it is genetic. This is a genetic state
Yeah.
trait, not a diagnosis. Not It's kind of like a trait, like having brown eyes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So going through the questions, it's a shorter quiz, but for the high sensation seeker. So the first question, if it were safe, I would like to take, I'm going to be exposing. If it were safe, I would like to take a drug that would cause me to have strange new experiences. Okay, I have to say I said no to that one. And I'm not just saying that to
For
sound
legal
professional.
disclaimer reasons.
Legal disclaimer. No, I actually said no to that one because of HSPs tend to be very sensitive to medication.
Yeah.
And I am always someone who has been, although I do need high levels of it. So I think in a way that's the high sensation seeking. Like if I get a dental procedure, I need
Mhm.
extra Novocaine, and it's
Mhm.
because of being sensitive to pain.
Mhm.
Or like I'm a 3 ibuprofen popper, not a 2, even though you're supposed to take 2. Like I know that's,
Mhm.
no medical doctors reach out to me on that one. So the next one, I can become almost painfully bored in some conversations. Okay. And it's funny to hear a therapist say this. I feel this so hard when this pertains to a conversation that's all small talk.
Okay.
Right. So I'm okay with a little small talk to kind of get the vibe going and get the energy
Yeah.
of the other person. But I once had someone tell me about this networking event, and I said, oh, I hate networking. I've never actually been to a networking event. And they were shocked because I'm super outgoing and I love having people around. And I mean, I run a pretty large private practice.
Yeah, and you feel I think you're a super social person.
I'm naturally very social.
Yeah.
However, I like to talk about real things.
Things that matter. You don't
Things
like to
that
just talk about frivolity.
frivolity, yeah, frivolous things,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's not that I don't, and let me put it this way, if it matters to you, I can be interested. If I can feel, because I'm an
Mhm.
HSP, if I can feel that you're interested in something, I can become interested. But I have a hard time with, I call them like vanilla conversations where it's
Yeah.
I don't know, like the
I just
weather
zone out
or
of them. Like,
yeah,
I
or
I
like
just
your
forget them completely. I just go to a
yes.
different world, like
Or gossip annoys me. Like, if you're going to
Mhm.
tell me about someone else's experience, I become less interested because it it has one layer away. I can't feel what this other person you're talking about feels, so I become more uninterested. So, that
Mhm.
one, I feel that in that way. The next question, I would rather go to a new place. Oh, this is so me. I would rather go to a new place I may not like than go back again to a place I know I like.
Oh, no.
I do have a couple places I love that I like to go to. I am obsessed with the idea of, and I think this is why the area I live in is so appealing to me, the Raleigh-Durham Chapel Hill area, because there's no shortage of restaurants and festivals and museums and just like new. It's all popping up. I get like a rush of almost like a needed rush of dopamine when I go somewhere new.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes.
That's interesting.
Right?
I love traveling and I love exploring new things, but um I can do that if I've planned that and I've settled down and I'm thinking, okay, I want to do this, I want to see something new, but I don't want to do that every weekend and I don't want to do that every month. I much rather prefer to stay somewhere where I know the surroundings around me. I know what to expect. And I always go to exactly the same store. I go to the
Mhm.
same to the same like little bus stop. I go to the same coffee shop. But for you, this is not true. You love exploring and you love trying different things, seeing different things and
I do to a point. This is where the HSP part comes in. So I love novelty if I've got these bumpers of security around it.
wow, okay.
So I sometimes say to people, being an HSP, HSS is like living life with brakes, gas, brakes, gas. Whereas
Mhm.
being an HSP, I think is almost like an electric car where you're where you're
Yeah.
kind of, as long as you have a little bit on the brake, you're going. I'm sorry, a little bit on the gas, you're going. You're like, I'm
Yeah.
good. I'm going. I'm going. Don't make me press the brake too hard. Don't make me press the gas too hard.
Yeah.
Um I had
You're
my
the
first
Captain Slow.
what was that?
No, I'm saying you're the Captain Slow as an HSP from,
Right.
what, the Grand Tour or Top Gear.
So, for instance, if I'm going somewhere completely new, I I do feel a little anticipatory anxiety, but if it's like a new restaurant, I'm at home, I'm somewhere safe, I know, I'm familiar. I kind of go into my hibernation mode before
Mhm.
I throw get-togethers a lot. Anyone who knows me, I love throwing get-togethers, but I have this weird hibernation period, the hour or 2 before, where I have to be
Mhm.
completely alone. I have to
Mhm.
either be, like, laying down to close my eyes or taking a bath or something to decompress, and then I get really into it, and I'm getting all the dopamine, and I'm super excited, and then at the end, I crash. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like this seesaw.
Like a roller coaster.
Yes, and that's why being HSS, HSP, you have to get really good at not too much or not too little.
How do you do that though? Because it feels like the highs would be so cool for you and the lows would be so bad. So, like, don't you end up in a state where you're constantly kind of trying to chase the high sensory experiences in order to avoid the kind of dip?
I think the more you learn about yourself, you learn just how much you need.
Uh-huh.
Like, I know if I don't have some sort of plan to see a friend within a week, I can feel kind of depressive.
Mhm.
And it's not because I think all my friends are going to abandon me. It's it's because I get something really meaningful out of those interactions, but I don't need it all the time. It's weird. Like, do not show up at my door unannounced.
Yeah.
That is gonna throw me off. But I definitely wanna make sure that we have that time together that I know I'm gonna get to be with you.
Mm. You wanna feel the quality in that moment. Like, you
Yes.
wanna really be in it,
Right.
okay?
And so let's see. I would like to try a sport that creates physical thrill, like skiing, rock climbing, or surfing. This again is so funny. So I played rugby. I
Oh,
don't know.
really?
Yeah.
South African, so we're huge huge on rugby.
Yeah, I played in undergrad, grad school. I actually played over when I studied abroad. So I've played in Spain, I've played in England. I actually moved here for playing to play for the city of Raleigh.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. But that is definitely, I would classify that as a thrill-seeking sport because that is a rough game.
It is, but here's the funny thing again with this HSS HSP. While I loved it, can you hear that train, by the way?
Yeah.
So we have a train that comes by twice a day. And it happens to be coming by now. So we
It's
could
okay. We can edit this, like,
okay.
big things is fine to cut
Yeah,
out.
we'll
It's
wait a
those
second.
small things that
Yeah, no, like a dog scratching at something. It's already gone. Because
cool.
yeah, okay. Um, it'll come back at like 4:30. So as far as oh yeah, trying the sport. So the funny thing is that being both, I loved it and sought it out because it was different and thrilling, and I was always terrified before every game that I was going to be injured.
Oh, that's an interesting
And
conundrum.
that breaks gas. Like, I would get so anxious right and, like, literally anxious before a game. My, stomach tumbling and like, "Oh gosh, okay,
Yeah.
how's this gonna go?" But as soon as the whistle blew, I was in.
Okay, and you felt that kind of rush of adrenaline and like, "Yeah, I wanna do this. I wanna be here. This is
Yes.
all me right now."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's that. I get restless if I stay home for long, absolutely. But again, I need the time at home, so it's this kind of seesaw effect. That
Yeah.
is definitely the case. I don't like waiting with nothing to do. Yeah, I struggle with that also. And I always have to work on not, it's too easy to kind of pick up your phone and start flooding your brain. So in those
Yeah.
moments, I do try to work on, kind of being mindful, being in the moment. I wonder sometimes if I don't like being early because I don't like waiting. I usually like showing
Ooh,
up right when
interesting.
something's going to start.
Yeah.
I try to show up right when something's going to start. Um, a next one, I rarely watch a movie more than once. Yeah, that's the case too, for sure.
Really? Oh, no. I have ones that I've watched a million times over.
When I was a kid, I did that. I definitely had like
Oh,
my
no, no. Now, as an
now.
adult. Yes.
No, I get really sad when I've watched a show that I love. I'm like, "Ugh, it's over. I can't watch it again." Like, aside from Friends, I will go back to that because it's kind of like this safe space for me or
Yeah.
something that
Good memories and
yeah.
all of that.
I enjoy the unfamiliar. I think I've kind of unpacked that already. If I see something unusual, I will go out of my way to check it out. Yes. Okay, so last fall, we were camping as a family. We had just gotten our first, I guess it's called a camper, not an RV because you pull it. And we're sitting there by the fire, the kids are asleep, and my husband and I started to hear screaming like a child.
Oh.
I got right up. I don't know what I grabbed. I think I grabbed something, like I was going to defend who knows? Like, why was I'm 5'1". What was I thinking? And I went marching through that campground in the dark towards the sound. Like, I had to go check it out. And of course, my husband's like chasing with me because he wasn't going to let me just go off by myself. Luckily,
Oh
I'm
my
still sitting
goodness.
here today because it was the owners of the campground were watching a Halloween movie on,
Oh my goodness.
on like this big speaker. But I went to it.
Oh,
Or
wow.
yeah, like it didn't even phase me. I'm like, "Yes, I have to go see what's going on." So, if you ever watch a movie and you're like, "Why is the person in the scary movie?" Which again, I don't really love scary movies either for the same reasons you probably don't.
Yeah.
If
Running up the stairs instead of out the door? That's
y
you?
that would be me, and it's not even a conscious thing. It's like I just have to go figure out what this is. It's a real thing, people. Like if you're
No, 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 no. I am the complete opposite. Like, I'm gonna tell you this story because I'm gonna trust that the audience would understand it's coming from a
okay.
good space and not judge me as the bad mom that I probably am. But
No,
I
you're
am
not.
terrified of snakes. Like, it is the bane of my existence.
Okay.
And we were lying in bed watching the Flintstones. I was with my little girl, and I got up to take a bathroom break. And as I walked into my bathroom and I looked down, there was this big black snake by my feet. And I just completely screamed and ran away. And my daughter started screaming because she can't get out of the bathroom, out of the room without crossing past the bathroom. I just left her there. I was like, okay, every
Fend for
man for
yourself.
himself, every girl for herself. And she was like crying. I'm screaming for my husband to come and help us. And after the whole ordeal was over, I'm still on the couch screaming, terrified. She's helping my husband like evacuate the snake.
Oh my God.
And afterwards, she's like, Mommy, do you think if something like that happens again, you'll come fetch me first
Oh,
before you leave?
poor girl. I
Yeah,
get it
so
though. I get it. And so
I'm
that's the
like
thing. You saw
completely
that
the
it was a snake,
opposite.
right? Like you saw it in
Yes,
front of you.
I
How
almost stepped on it.
I would have responded the same way. That's the weird thing because I would have seen it. I would have known what it was. I would have had that startle response and I probably would have hightailed out of there too. So it looks like bravery, but it's more like this weird curiosity. Like you can't kill it
Yeah, you
until you
can't
go see.
not do it. You just have to. Yeah.
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I'm definitely not that one.
Let's see. So I get bored spending time with the same people every day. Okay, I hate to admit this one. I think I can have that experience if I like novelty, remember? So I like being with all
Mhm.
different people. I like having a variety of things.
How do you do that in your relationship with your husband then? Is it just that you guys have this kind of frequency that you're always challenging each other and there's always something new?
Yes, and we're very social. So
Ah.
we integrate other people into our life
Mm.
quite often. Like I was saying, at least on a weekly basis, we're seeing friends or
Really? Like,
yeah,
I'm a complete hermit. Like, I isolate. I will, unless my husband forces me to go somewhere, I'll never leave. Like,
really.
but he's also an introvert in his way. Like, we don't
Hmm.
see friends very often. We don't, we're complete homebodies. And yeah, so weird how we're this complete opposites.
But still both HSPs. I know it's funny. I run this mental health meetup called Uncorked Conversations. It's so fun. And it was last night. We were talking about imposter syndrome, all that, inspired by your episode. And one of the girls one of the women in the group knows me personally. And she brought up, something about, oh, I really admire your friendship with your husband and how you guys are always going off and doing all these new things and all of that. And in my mind, I'm like, half of it is our friendship and half of it is that I'm a high sensation seeker. And I'm always wanting to go try new things but I try to incorporate that with him. So keeping
Yeah.
him part of it keeps him interesting to me. We have more to talk about, more to,
Hmm.
and this relates to also the ADHD brain,
Okay.
if you think about it.
Do you have ADHD?
So it's so funny you ask. I have taken so many tests and I don't meet criteria in some ways and I do in others. And it's so hard to know. And this is why unpacking neurodiversity is so important to me because it's not such clean cut boxes like we want it to be. There are things about ADHD, the high sensation seeking and the dopamine driven aspects of ADHD that I classify as, but there's a lot of the you know, executive functioning pieces that I don't.
Okay.
So I would say it's up for debate.
It's in the air.
It's in the air. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the holistic measures that one should use to manage ADHD, I religiously use also, like exercising
Mhm.
every single day, being, kind of hyper organized with lists and all these things. So I
Mhm.
don't know if like my Virgo power helps me a little, you
You're a
know?
Virgo?
Yeah, what are you?
A Virgo.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my
And the
gosh.
29th of August.
Wait, when is yours?
29 August.
That's my birthday.
No, you're joking.
Wait, August 29th, you said, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's
That
totally
is
my birthday.
crazy. What year were you born?
81.
Oh, 85.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
That is so weird.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious. See, everyone here, we're learning.
That is so weird too. And just thinking of how we connected and got together, and now we're both and born on the same day. We're both
That's
HSPs.
crazy. Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
That is so funny. So this ADHD that you were mentioning, is that something that shows up on the checklist for a high sensation seeker?
No, but with a lot of these things, there's a lot of overlap if you think
Yeah.
about it. I mean, thinking about like, I enjoy the unfamiliar. If you have someone who has the hyperactivity piece of ADHD, they
Mhm.
also could enjoy the unfamiliar,
Mm.
right? So
Mm.
but like you said, there's things about PTSD that also looks like some of the HSP
Yeah.
traits. And I think when we get too overly invested in compartmentalizing different traits and diagnoses, we kind of lose the rhythm that we're just humans, and humans are
Mhm.
so diverse and so organic. We're just too organic to box up.
Yeah. I have something I wanna add to this, but I first wanna, know if we're finished with the list. Did you do the last
No,
question on the high
almost.
sensation?
So let's see. My friends say it is hard to predict what I will want to do. I didn't say yes to that one because I'm so communicative that I like to explore new areas. We've covered that. That's a definite yes.
Mhm.
I avoid having a daily routine. This one I also said no to because I do have a daily
Okay.
routine, but this is the odd piece. I have a routine, but I need flex. So
But do you have a routine because, like you just explained with the ADHD, you feel you need it to function well? Or do you have a routine because you cannot function without it? Like, do you do it because you know it's something you have to do? Or
I
if you
think
don't have it, you're lost?
this is where the HSP part really comes out for me. I think I feel more centered and balanced,
Ah, okay.
kind of safer. I don't, that's a dramatic word to use, but definitely more centered and balanced when I have a routine. But my routine, like I was saying, has to have flexibility. Like
Mm.
I almost dread if I know ahead of time that I know exactly, what workout I'm going to do and who I'm going to meet up with. Like I'm not one of those who likes to have like a workout buddy.
Yeah.
I like to wake up and be like, okay, this is my time frame where I normally routine wise work out. What do I feel like doing today?
Mhm.
So there's a little bit of organic nature within the routine. Let's see. I am drawn to art that gives me an intense experience. I would agree with that. I mean,
Yeah. I can see that in you for sure because
mhm.
even when we were doing our branding and looking for it, like you have a very keen eye on how to put things together and what to marry together and what concepts you want to see. So I can definitely see that in you. Yeah.
Mhm. I like substances that make me feel high. Um, I don't,
Does coffee
again,
count?
well, so you're talking about caffeine. I drink black tea. Like I can't even do coffee or I can't sleep the night before. So
Yeah.
again, because I'm sensitive, I would say no on that one. I prefer friends who are unpredictable. I, I, I value loyalty and reliability. However, I think I've mentioned before that I do gravitate towards neurodiverse people
Hmm.
because they are interesting and you kind of never know what you're going to get. So I would agree with that. I look forward to being in a place that is new and strange to me. I've said yes to that. Maybe not so strange, but I don't like fun houses because then everyone's jumping out at you. I hate that. Or haunted houses because of the scare. I
Yeah.
don't like scare jumps.
You don't like being scared. Yeah.
No, no. To me, if I am spending the money to travel, the more foreign the country, the better. Yes, totally.
Hmm.
I would like to be an explorer. I think I actually have that in my little byline on Instagram
Yeah.
or
I
something.
think,
And then the last one, I enjoy it when someone makes okay, this is a funny one. I enjoy it when someone makes an unexpected sexual joke or comment that starts everyone laughing a little nervously. No. So again, you only have to score 11 or more, which I do. There are some things about like substances and humor that I'm a little different on, but
yeah, but most of it you tend to meet. I think
right.
you can find this list also on the website, right? So you guys can go to Elaine Aron's website, but I will link it in the episode description and go and fill out your list. But also, if you're into it, then get the book for sure, because it really changed my life. But I think one of the things that stood out for me on understanding what a highly sensitive person is and what it looks like and
Mm-hmm.
what it means is just like that realization I had of I am not wrong, and
Mm-hmm.
the world isn't necessarily, a place where I have to fit into this little box. And I don't know if this was your experience, but a lot of my experience, of course, it is intermingled with past traumas and all of that, but
Mm-hmm.
was geared to me having to understand, although I didn't understand that I am this highly sensitive person, and hiding it, because I would often be told, "Why are you crying again? You are so sensitive. You take
Mm-hmm.
things so personally. We can't tell you anything because you will be so stressed about that." And this is the narrative I went through most of my life with.
Mm-hmm.
And then getting to a point where you can read this and understand, like, hey, maybe I'm just wired a little differently.
Right.
And if I understand this a little better, I can probably handle it a little better.
And the when you use the key terms, you're so sensitive. I think that's one of the things we think about as far as sensitivity shaming.
Mm.
But there's a couple other terms that I have experienced that I think are also important to remember. Like I remember once being told you'll never be satisfied.
Oh, wow, that's a rough
Well, it
one.
was my ex-boyfriend, so but he wasn't
But
saying it about
still,
our
like, words
relationship.
matter. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it was
Okay.
kind of more so about the fact that I was, like, trying new things and all this, and at the time, it burned, but now I look back and I'm thinking, "No, that's my high sensation seeker. That's what drives me and excites me. That's a good thing." Or
Mhm.
being told that you're too emotional,
Oh, yeah.
right? That's another one. A lot to handle.
Mhm.
Um, if someone tells you this is an interesting one. If someone
High
tells
maintenance is also one that
high
I've heard a lot.
maintenance, honestly, if someone tells you, "I think you're neurotic or you're controlling," these can also be reflections on the conscientiousness that someone who is an HSP has, or the fact that you know how you want a space to be because you want people to be comfortable. If you are
And then it comes in, like, you can't always make everybody happy. Not everybody's gonna like you.
right, just relax.
Yes.
So these are all
Yes.
other, kind of I say like more sensitivity shaming type terms that might not seem quite as obvious as you're too sensitive.
Yeah, and you know what was the hard thing for me? I think this pushed me into a space where I was trying to not be that way because the
Mhm.
world was telling me the way that I was wrong.
Mhm.
So, for example, it would upset me a lot and it would be difficult for me to be stimulated, like too many noises, sounds, people, crowds. But I would force myself into these positions because this is what normal people do,
Mhm.
and they don't get freaked out by it. They don't need to retreat for a day and be in a calm, silent space. So obviously, in order to fit into what society deems to be normal, I need to be able to do this too. And
Right.
that made it worse
Right.
because I can't do it. Like,
Right.
it completely overwhelms me. It completely, shifts my axis. It takes me so
Mhm.
long to get back to a normal.
Right.
Combine that with my panic disorder, it's just like
Right.
complete, crashing of all systems.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, what you're talking about that we definitely I wanna dig into deeper through our episodes is the masking
Mm,
that can happen for neurodiverse folks and the masking of how you're really feeling or what you're really experiencing for HSPs
mhm,
can be really significant.
yeah. And I think the beautiful thing that we forget about HSPs is, yeah, okay, so some of these things are challenging, but we gain so much from it
Mhm.
because if I just look back at my life the past couple of years, how intuitive I can be in terms of making business decisions, or
Mhm.
um, things that I see in people and recognize that other people don't necessarily see because it's just such small nuances. And you do that because you're operating at this kind of frequency, like
Right.
you see things and experience things differently than other people do, and it can be in your favor.
Mhm. Absolutely. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because if you think about, well, you were saying it was an aha moment, that what piece of it was an aha for you mostly? Like what
When I
part of
found out about
yeah, like what
HSP,
part of your personality did you have hindsight on that you're thinking, "Oh, wow, that's probably related to that."
I think the 100%, and maybe this is also because of how I grew up, is that environmental thing where you
Yeah,
feel other people's emotions and you
right.
get upset about it to such a degree that you literally
Mhm.
almost feel physically ill from it.
Mhm.
And understanding that, that may not necessarily be related to a narrative like you can't keep everybody happy, not everybody's going to like you,
Mhm.
because that's not really what it's about. It's
Mm-mm.
more about you're trying to understand where are these feelings and these emotions and this atmosphere in the room coming from, because it's upsetting something in me, deeply upsetting something in me and triggering something in me. um that was my biggest, like.
I love how you put that because it doesn't necessarily have to reflect on whether you're confident or whether you have, kind of a good sense of self. It's not like you're losing yourself in other people's feelings and emotions. It's it's just this energetic experience that isn't there's not an on off switch to it. And it
Mhm.
it actually makes me think of a decision I had made when I got married. I had a very big wedding party, as you can imagine, because I'm a high sensation seeker and I have a lot of friends. And I say that proudly. I joke that some people collect, thimbles or wine or stamps, and I collect friends.
Oh,
Um,
awesome.
and I had this one really amazing friend that I love dearly, and we're still very good friends. And I was in her wedding, and or was it? I'm trying to think of the other way around. Maybe it was after. Maybe we were still good enough friends. I was in her wedding after my wedding. But I came to her before the wedding and I said, I love you so dearly and I really want you in my wedding party, but I can't have you in my wedding party because this particular friend she's the very extreme introvert version of HSP, and we will talk. Let's unpack some episode. There are differences with introverts, HSPs, all of that.
Mm.
But I said, she would tend at that time in her life to have days where she would just kind of get really reclusive and quiet and off to herself. And I always felt the need to go help her and like make sure she was
Okay.
okay and pull her into the group. And that was kind of like our dynamic. And I
You were a
realized that,
caregiver. Yeah.
yes. And so I realized if that happened on my wedding day, that could have been really bad.
Mm.
And so I said, I love you so much, but I can't run the risk of me being kind of over concerned about how you're doing.
Wow, but how, like, were you nervous to do that? Like,
I mean, I think anyone who's friends with me usually knows that I'm just authentic from the jump.
yeah.
Like, I am going to set that culture between you and I that I invite you to be open with me. I'm open with you, always with a place of curiosity and love. Like, I'm not trying
Mm,
to hurt
mm.
you. I don't I don't remember being super nervous about that one. I think because I thought she would get it. We had had enough conversations.
And she was okay with it?
Yeah, we're still amazing friends today, and I do think I was in her wedding after my wedding. I'm trying I think she
Oh,
got married after,
wow.
yes, she definitely got married after me, and I was in her wedding.
That's what I was saying to you. I have such a fear of conflict. I would never do that. I would, like, suffer through the day. I would do everything to make her feel comfortable. Like,
Mm.
I it's like I was saying, it's part of my journey I'm deeply working on at the moment. But that's why I was asking, because I have so much respect for you for doing that. As you were telling me that, I could feel how anxious I was getting. Just thinking of maybe doing something like that.
Mhm. And I think it depends on the relationship. If I feel really safe with someone, I felt very safe with her, so I felt less anxious, but there are certainly people I don't feel as connected to that if I have to confront them, it's a little bit more anxiety provoking, but that's another thing I definitely would love for us to unpack is conflict resolution because that's a big
Yeah.
one, especially
Yeah.
for sensitive people.
Oh, yeah, that is a huge one. So I would encourage our audience to go and check out this website for Dr. Elaine Aaron.
Mhm.
And remember, this is the Sensitivity Doctors where we discuss all things sensitive. So this is definitely not our last conversation on highly sensitive people, and it's just cannot unpack it all in 40 minutes.
Mm-mm. Mm.
So before we say goodbye for the week, what are you celebrating this week? And we
Mm.
encourage our audience to pick one thing, no matter how small, that you may also be celebrating.
I am celebrating that I'm gonna get to do a remember I was saying I love to hang out with people.
Yeah.
Like a family girls' night with a couple family members in the area on Friday, and we have never done this before, so this is kind of a new thing with this part of my husband's family, so I'm looking forward
Oh,
to it.
awesome.
Yeah, so I'm
Oh,
celebrating
report
that.
back.
Yeah,
Report back on how that
I
that went.
will. How about you?
I'm celebrating today that we have sunshine. I'm from South
Yay.
Africa. These European winters without sunshine, it really gets to us.
Mhm.
It's super freezing and cold, but the sun is shining, and it just feels
Awesome.
like my mood is so much better, and it's so nice to look outside and see the sun glistening from the trees, so I'm celebrating that today.
Awesome.
Okay, so we will see you again next week on the Sensitivity Doctors podcast. Thank you for joining us.